Hello my lovelies, Chef Kieron Hales out here at Zingerman's Coleman Farms. Continuing the series to talk about my top 10 favorite cookbooks. It's going to be a baker's dozen for sure. I definitely couldn't pick 10, but one that had to be in there for sure. More the experience and the time that I spent there, but I've got the complete Bocuse. I was privileged, lucky, sheerly excited about being able to cook with Paul Bocuse in his restaurant just outside of Lyon at a very young age. Paul Bocuse is the granddaddy of the culinary world, at least for me, when I started back when I was 13 years old. His recipes and how he was assessed for the Michelin Guide was a clear nod to where I want to be now in my tail end of my career. Which is the simplicity and ease of cooking. A lot of the time when Paul Bocuse would be assessed by the Michelin Guide, he would cook really simple dishes. You'd be talking about a sole with a brown butter dressing, a salt cod on Lyonnaise potatoes. They were very simple dishes. They were just done perfectly. And I think when, as a chef, you can get there and you're not trying to do a lot of other complexity on the plate, and focus on the product, be that the fish, the meat, the vegetable, and make it sing as well as you can on the plate. That's when you really enter a happy place. A lot of Paul Bocuse's recipes in this cookbook and the experience of eating in his restaurants and working with him was something about understanding that relationship, of treating that food with as much respect and care as you possibly can. I will also say being able to work with him in the kitchen, or at least being in the kitchen with him, his kitchen was a kind and friendly place, which wasn't always the case when I was starting out my career. And I think that made a big change in how I experienced working in kitchens. For me, it's a big book. It's got a lot of recipes in there. Unlike the Escoffier cookbook that we talked about earlier, these are full-blown recipes. Beautiful photography inside here. I definitely have ones that are tagged multiple different times. But again, the simplicity of eating some things, what you might not know as far as things I like to eat. Fish isn't at the top of my list. I've worked in independent fish restaurants. I've always lived by the coast. But I'm a really big, beef, pork consumer, not necessarily fish. But one of the things I loved eating there, making, and then continue to make is cod Lyonnaise. So this is where you take salt cod, and it's cooked over Lyonnaise potatoes. And as a Brit, when we make things like Lancashire hot pot, it's a very similar kind of potato dish on top of a stew. What's super nice about this is how clean and refreshing this dish is. I think it's got, what have we got here? 8 ingredients. They're salt cod, potatoes, onions, butter, olive oil, parsley, vinegar, and salt and pepper. For us, you want to be in a really simple place where you understand that you want to buy the best of those things you can. So rather have less, so the portion size might be a little bit smaller, but you got the very best, English Jersey potatoes, those really tiny, sweet, brand new potatoes, or that first, the crop potatoes. So this is a kind of dish as you start to get your smallest potatoes out of the ground at the beginning of the year. This is the kind of recipe to use for that. What's really interesting, because I was flicking through the book before we recorded today, a couple of pages back, and you've got the salt meuniere, which is that sole meuniere, which is where they've got that brown butter sole. We would put those tiny, beautiful baby shrimp on the top of it, a little bit of parsley and capers. Definitely something we do out here at the farm. It's a very classical dish. But again, I think what you'll get in reading this book or interacting with this book is how simple the recipes are, and how that it doesn't have to have 10 or 12 different flavors. It's got one predominant flavor with other things complementing it. And I think that sings true through a lot of the recipes that are in Bocuse's cookbook, also in his restaurants. I cannot recommend this enough. I've probably brought this for 2 or 3 chefs that have worked for me in the past. I would definitely go and pick up a copy of this. It should be up there with the Escoffier, the repertoire, and then this cookbook. All right, let's get to the next one.